Welcome here to Becoming Porn Free, our 12-step framework to creating a life free of pornography in just 12 weeks. In tonight's training masterclass, each and every one of you are going to learn the three common mistakes. So we're going to start with unpacking the mistakes, discussing what I've seen out there in 5 years of work, both with our clients that come into the program and just with really addressing this, looking at the issue through research, understanding the role that it plays on the impact of a man's psychology, his relationships. So we're first going to talk about the three biggest mistakes that men are making. You guys are probably making one, if not all three of these. And that's why you're here tonight, because you have not yet broken free from this chain. We're going to then get into the old school methods and why some of them don't work. This is what I saw back in 2019 when I started to host a podcast highlighting people's recovery stories. I walked my own path of freedom for 20 years, I walked my own struggle with addiction and then broke free on February 14th of 2019. But there were a lot of things that I didn't have access to, and that's what kept me a slave for so long. And there's so many things that I saw other men struggling with. So we're going to talk about why some of these old school methods don't work. We're then going to get into our 12-step framework. So what I've really spent the last 5 years in developing it. We've tweaked it, we've modified it. It's become the foundation for all of our work, and it's the foundation for our Reboot Your Life program. But it's our 12-step process. So I'm going to walk you guys through all of this so you guys have a clear blueprint on how to create freedom in your life. And then ultimately, we're talking about how to quit porn, reboot your life, and what I say, become the man that each and every single one of you were called and born to be. You guys are probably familiar with me. That's why you're here tonight. You're probably on the email list, maybe you listen to the podcast. But who is Coach Frank Rich? First and foremost, I'm a transformational behavioral change expert. I spent 15 plus years working in the health, fitness, and recovery spaces as a coach. Started Frank Rich Fitness back in 2016, was an in-person trainer in a gym, was a sales leader and manager in a gym there as well. And prior to that, in my corporate career, I did sales and leadership development. So I spent my entire, basically adult life working in some element of leadership, transformational coaching. Founder of Rebuilt Recovery. I host two top-ranked podcasts. So The Superman Life is the one I started in 2019. We regularly rank in the top 100 on Apple. And then in December of 2022 or 23, we launched the Rebuilt Man podcast. And in our first month, we surpassed the downloads that we were doing on the Superman Life podcast. And that podcast regularly ranks in 100 top 125 here in the US. But that's who I am. You guys know that, a lot of that there already. But why should you listen to me? I think that's important to kind of set the tone there. Well, first and foremost, a lot of people do. We have about 60,000 plus followers across all our social media platforms and reach about 100K per month. When I say social media, that's going to be our multiple Instagram pages, our YouTube channels, and our podcast. I've interviewed at this point 200, and I just did episode 279 of the podcast, 250 plus of experts in the world's leading experts in these topics. And when I say these topics, we're talking about transformation, behavioral change, psychology, neuroscience, addiction recovery, health, fitness, behavioral change across the board. So the work that I produce is really in a simulation of many people's work. So I see myself as more of a facilitator. We've created some things, but it's really looking at what I call the universal success principles, things that work in personal development, recovery, health, fitness, behavioral change, parenting, finance. I think that there's consistent patterns in all of this. We've had, that number needs to be updated. About 8,000 guys have joined us through books, courses, coaching programs across the board in the last 5 years. And to date, there's been over 1,500 successful transformations. So guys that were sitting where you are sitting tonight, either struggling, just recognized it, been at this journey for years, or in the final stretch. I'll be completely honest. A lot of the guys that we work with, we're not the first person. We're not the first coach. We're oftentimes the one that takes you across the finish line. I think we have some unique things that lack in many other programs and lack in many other of the resources that are out there that ultimately create what I call is this identity transformation. But that's who I am today. That's what I've accomplished. But you guys need to understand that I was where each and every single one of you were today, if not in a darker place. So if you don't know my story, my introduction to pornography was at the age of 6. I was a nosy little boy looking in dad's socks drawer, stumbled across what I recall as a Hustler S type of magazine, which for the younger boys, we had to have magazines, and it wasn't readily available on the internet. And I think that presents a more difficult struggle for young men today. I can see we kind of got a range here just based upon what I see in the audience here tonight. But for me, it was 6. It created secrets very early on. It created a lot of guilt, shame, and it stayed with me until I was 35 years old. So 30 years of my life, pornography was at the forefront and center of it. I say I really struggled with the addiction for 20 years because I can recall being a teenager, and that's when we got the internet, and that's really when a lot of the secrecy, the hiding, the guilt, the shame, the living two separate lives really came into the picture. A very pivotal point, and I'm not going to get a lot into the faith walk here tonight. I don't know where you guys are at in your spiritual walk and journey. But for me, a integral part in me becoming free was finding my faith in October of 2018 and putting Jesus at the center of my life. I say I was set free from this addiction in February of 2019. That's really when I felt freedom for the first time. I'd struggled with it. I had ups and downs for many, many years. But that specific day, and my experience has been all men that find what I define as true freedom experience a change inside where they begin to see the world through a completely different lens. That day was Valentine's Day 2019 for me. And at this point, we'll be celebrating 6 years later this year in February. So just a month and a half away from now. And it was a day that changed my life forever, set me down the path that I've been on, and God has opened up many doors. And it's been an incredible journey of impact and meeting some amazing people, impacting some incredible lives and relationships. And you guys will meet some of those guys here tonight virtually through this presentation. But after thousands of conversations with men from all across the globe, we've been fortunate to serve guys in 5 different continents, over 25 different countries at this point. I've been able to identify that there are 3 common mistakes that men make when they're trying to overcome pornography. We're going to get into those right now. Mistake number 1 is what I call their frame of reference. It's funny because I'm doing 75 hard right now. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the 75 hard challenge, but I'm on day 44, 45. So I just snuck in right before this because I had a podcast this afternoon. I was able to sneak in my second outdoor workout right before jumping on here with you guys tonight. It's raining here, so I was walking out with a weight vest in the rain. But I was listening to a Tony Robbins podcast, and Tony was going down this deep discussion on framing, reframing, and deframing. Powerful conversation. But it was bringing to light some of the things that I like to talk about here. And when I say our frame of reference, so the mistake that men make is they go at this fight or they go at this journey with what I say is a broken frame of reference. Here's what I mean. Men try to quit porn. Every single day, I get inbox messages, emails, conversations. Frank, I need help quitting porn. And I think starting from the place of trying to quit the behavior is setting yourself up for failure. We must transcend this addiction. And what I mean transcend this addiction is begin to live above it. Because when you try to quit something, you focus on all the reasons as to why it's an issue. You focus on all the things that trigger you. You focus on all the reasons as to why you failed in the past. And when you set your focus on the struggles, when you set your focus on the challenge, when you set your focus on trying to quit something, everything to keep you stuck there is what you see. When you change what I say is the frame of reference, or you change the goal, instead of quitting behavior, become the man that doesn't want porn. You see, a guy that wants to quit it still says that I want that in my life. Instead, if we could create our desire to no longer want porn, it shifts our focus. It gives us what I say a growth-centric approach towards overcoming this addiction. I believe the only way to overcome this addiction for good is to become the man that is no longer addicted to porn. Okay? All recovery, in my opinion, requires the creation of a new identity. Okay? We must begin to see the world through a different lens. A new lens produces new thought patterns. New thought patterns produces new actions and behaviors. New behaviors will create new habits. And when you have new habits, you have a new reality that you're living. So it all has to start from us looking within and saying, what parts about me are keeping this addiction alive? And what parts of me must I let go? That's a completely different lens or frame of reference than saying, that beautiful woman over there is the reason that I'm looking at porn because I was traumatized in a young age. Because I saw porn when I was 6 years old is the reason I'm addicted today. See, we're putting the blame, we're putting the responsibility outside of us. We got to put it within. And it starts with changing our frame of reference. Mistake number two is men are using either incomplete systems or broken systems. Most oftentimes they're incomplete. Here's a couple examples. Accountability apps. Okay. We've all probably tried them. We've probably installed the software. We've probably said, here's the password to my account. It's not going to work. It's taking us back to that broken frame of reference. You can't block your way to freedom. Okay. We all, or maybe we don't know the story of Adam and Eve. God created Adam and Eve in the garden. He said, you can have everything in this garden except for that one tree. The minute he leaves, Eve is tempted by that one tree, by the serpent at that one tree. I believe that there's a lesson in that story that humans, when they're told they can't have something, desire it more. Anybody on the call that's a father understands this. If you have children and you're in the grocery store, the kids are walking down the cereal aisle, and you said, I want the marshmallow puffy with the colored on it or whatever. You say, no, I can't have that. 3 aisles over, you look in the grocery cart and there's 2 boxes of it because the kid figured out a way to get the thing that you said he couldn't have. When you say you cannot have pornography and you try to block it, something inside of you begins to stem up and say, how do I get that thing? How do I move that software? How do I get a peek of the girl at the gym? How do I scroll Instagram because maybe I'm going to see something that I'm not supposed to have? So this goes back to the frame of reference once again, but it's an incomplete approach because you're not going to be able to block your way. Now, accountability apps can be a tool in a much bigger plan. Okay. Second thing here, reading the Bible and praying is only a part of the puzzle. Speaking to anybody that's a strong Christian or believer out there, this is probably what you've been told by your Christian groups before. This is maybe what you've been told by your pastor is how you just gotta read the Bible more. The answers are in there. You just gotta pray a little bit harder, right? If that was true, okay, and I struggle to speak like this, but I said at the beginning, recovery is found in truthful conversation. If praying and reading the Bible was all that was needed, 57% of pastors wouldn't struggle with pornography addiction. 64% of youth pastors wouldn't struggle with this addiction. There wouldn't be an epidemic of 75% of Christian men that attend church on a regular basis consuming pornography. Should you read the Bible and pray? 100%. It should be a foundation principle for how you live your life. Okay. But if you don't take what's out of that and begin to live it, if you don't take what's out of that and change who you are, going back to the identity change, become the man that no longer wants porn, you will continue to struggle. In my opinion, freedom requires a fully integrated, holistic approach that is rooted in growth-centric principles. And I think another incomplete system or an incomplete approach that men use is they try to do this alone. Okay. Pornography addiction is an intimacy disorder. That's a great quote by a friend of mine, Sathya Sam. I think he got it from somebody else. It's something we do in secrecy. It's something we do in private. And I love the quote from Atomic Habits. What you do when you're by yourself is really who you are. If you're trying to overcome this thing without talking about it because you're afraid of guilt, shame, or judgment, that means that thing is holding power over you. You are not living a true, authentic version of your life if there's something that you are doing and you are unable to share it with close, personal, intimate people in your life. It's keeping you a slave. We got to get in community. We got to have regular conversation. We got to expand our capacity to have intimacy. And when I speak about intimacy, it's connection with other people. It's not sex. Intimacy and sex are two different things. There is sexual intimacy, but intimacy, we're all being intimate here tonight because we are having a very important conversation about something that is heavily impacting each and every single one of our lives. If you don't believe that is bringing us closer, you don't understand human dynamics, relationships, and biology to a certain degree. So we got to get in community. We cannot do this alone. The third mistake here is most men just don't honor their word to themselves and they don't tell the truth. And here's a couple examples. If anybody's willing to admit this, who hit snooze this morning? I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I gave this talk at a church one time. There was 147 people in the audience. I think they counted like 123 of the hands went up. Okay. Is hitting snooze going to destroy your life? No. But here's what it is it's a promise and commitment that we made to ourselves that we're not honoring. We're beginning the day with negotiating with ourselves. And the man that negotiates with the first thing he does in the morning, negotiates when he drives by the gym after a long day, negotiates when he's presented with a cookie after lunch, even though he's on a diet. He's also is developing the habit that his word doesn't hold weight, and negotiating is who he is. So when it's late night, wife has gone to bed, he's had a long, stressful day, and he's told himself, I'm not going to look at porn. Negotiating with that promise becomes a whole lot easier. Okay. It's about walking in integrity with ourselves. It's about looking in the mirror, and the man that looks back is one that we trust and one that we believe. So we got to start living in truth and integrity with ourselves. So three mistakes. Okay. Now I told you we're going to talk about why some of the old systems don't work. I'm going to speed this one up here a little bit. But I think the most common approach out there, outside of small groups, going to church, reading the Bible, is 12 steps. 12 steps is obviously the foundation, and it was started in AA. Those principles have been applied to SAA groups. Have groups that are specifically taking a 12-step model and using it in the porn addiction space. I believe Celebrate Recovery follows a very similar approach. So this is what the 12 steps are. We're actually going to unpack each and every single one of these one by one in a very quick time. But step one of the 12 steps is we've admitted that we were powerless over the addiction and that our lives have become unmanageable. Okay. I don't believe that we are powerless. I don't believe that we are powerless to alcohol. I don't believe that we are powerless to drugs. And I for sure do not believe that we are powerless to pornography. I think it's lacking that personal responsibility. I think it's taking the blame off of us that these are choices and decisions. Yeah. Was there some programming that took place? Were there other people that maybe played a role in our journey? For sure. But at this point, every single time we go to thehubsite.com or whatever it is that we consume our pornography on, every single time we do that, a choice has been made by us that is what we're doing. That is not powerlessness. Okay. It keeps us in a victim state. And I believe it limits our frame of reference and limits the potential growth of who we can become. Step number two, is we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I think that this is a partial truth, right? I believe as a Christian believer that we are saved by the blood of Christ alone, but we must pursue God and follow Jesus daily. And I think that's a part that a lot of people lack taking that responsibility is like, I got to play my role in this relationship with God. There's a big part that I have to do. And I think we all know a lot of crazy people that attend church every single week. So if all we need to do is believe in God, who's going to restore our sanity, that wouldn't be another truthful statement there as well. Step number three is we have made a decision to turn our will and lives over to the care of God as we understand him. Okay. This one must be followed by daily action. Okay. We are in control of the decisions that we make. We possess free will. We should follow God, but he's not going to control and dictate our steps. He can guide us. We can be in union with him. We can walk with God, but we have to take those actual steps. So I think that once again, this is missing a big part of personal responsibility. Step number 4 and 5, we're going to combine these two, but we've made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. We've admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being, the exact nature of our wrongdoing. Okay. I believe that if these two steps are executed properly, they're actually the beginning of your true journey. This is what I talked about in the beginning, right? We're not going to do this alone. Like we need to be honest with ourselves and other people about the struggles. We to actually know the impact that porn has had on our lives. So I think if you were going to follow the 12 steps, by the time you get to 4 and 5 is actually when you're going to begin to start making some real transformational progress in yourself and in your life. Step 6 and 7, we are entirely ready to have God remove all of these defects of characters and humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings. Combine these into one. What I see here is they were aiming at 12 because it's a convenient number, and they needed to kind of extend some things out. But I literally think that this is exactly the same thing, so I don't need to be broken up into 2 steps. 8 and 9. We made a list of all the persons that we have harmed, and we become willing to make amends with them. That's important to do. We've made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when it would injure them or do others. Once again, like these can be combined into one step, making a list and making amends. It's kind of the same thing. Like you don't need to break them up, but I think they're out of order, and I think they're out of order in the terms of being in a journey of recovery. See, Tony is here on the call. Tony's been in the program long enough that he actually knows that we have somewhere around week 7 or 8 in the program some steps that are very similar to this. We want you making amends. But what I think needs to be done is you got to do some work on yourself first before you try to create forgiveness with others, right? If all you did was made a list of all the wrongdoings with pornography and then went to your wife and said, "Hey, babe, I love you, but I've been watching pornography secretly every night for the last 12 years. I feel disconnected from you and the kids. You probably see it as cheating, and I don't really know what I'm going to do about it." Like, if that was a conversation you went and had your wife with about it, it wouldn't be a healthy home for a short period of time. I think having some success, not that you need to continue to keep secrets from your wife, because to be honest, your wife probably already knows. But what I'm saying is, before you try to go fix broken relationships, fix yourself first, because you're not going to fix a broken relationship as a broken version of yourself. Okay. Step number 10 here is continue to take personal inventory. And when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Okay. At this point, like I said in the last 2 steps, we haven't done any real developmental work on ourselves. We haven't changed anything. We've done a list of inventory. We know all the bad stuff, but what changes have we made? We're going to go tell people, hey, like, I'm sorry, and then try to fix it, or here's to be honest, if we're taking inventory of ourselves, we're going to continue to make the same mistakes because we haven't implemented any actionable steps to change the things that we're doing. We have to change. Your life change when you change. This is the biggest problem that I see in most accountability-based recovery groups. If it's just a bunch of grown men that are sitting around sharing when they messed up. Like, I've been in these environments, I've been in these groups, I've come and actually spoken multiple times in church organizations, in small groups. And I just get a feel from these that these are men that are not working on improving themselves. They're living in the victim state. They don't recognize it as they're the ones that is causing the problems, and they're passing it off. And they don't see the lens, they don't see the world through a growth-centric lens. A great book, Mindset by Carol Dweck, talks about a growth-centric mindset. Like, do we have the ability to change, and do we believe that? Okay. I believe recovery is based in personal growth and self-development. Now, there's other things that need to take place, but if you try to overcome an addiction without changing your life, like it's not going to succeed. And this is a problem that I see is men are just not taking the necessary actions. Okay. Step 11 and 12, these are both pretty good. As we seek through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understand Him, praying for knowledge of His will and the power to carry that out. Okay. I think that's the first one that is like actually taking some intentional actions. We want to carry out what we're hearing from God. We've had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps. We've carried these steps to a message to others, to practice these principles in our life. I love this verbiage here, spiritual awakening. It runs very consistent with many of the things that Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about. I'm a big fan of his work. He's been very influential in my life over the last 7 years. He has a background in, obviously, as a psychology, as a professor, but he studied addiction through his doctorate degree. And his language is all recovery from any addiction requires a spiritual transformation, spiritual awakening, spiritual transformation. And what this means is it doesn't mean we just begin to pray more. It means literally something inside of us changes. We see the world through a different lens. Our set of values and priorities changes. Our desires change. That's real spiritual transformation, is when the desires of your life begin to change. So I actually think that those 2 12 steps are really good. But I do believe that there's a new way, and a better way, a more successful way, and a more proven way, in my opinion. And that's what I'm getting into sharing with you guys here tonight, 7:30. We're doing really good on time. So the 12 steps to quitting porn, rebooting your life, and becoming the man that you were created to be. Now, my 12 steps are broken up into three phases. Phase one is awareness. Phase two is action. And phase three is what we call attainment. So we're going to dive into phase one, awareness now, which is the first four steps. Step number one is you must admit there is a problem and commit to change. Okay. Admitting the problem, you're all here tonight. You've recognized that. Many of you probably haven't truly committed to change. You're probably interested in it. You probably want it. Maybe you want it, but you don't believe that it's possible. And that's just not full on commitment. Commitment is burning the ships, right? It's like do or die. Like I will change no matter what. It requires radical honesty. And I do believe the language that we use in our commitments is so important. But here's the truth, guys. In order for something to change, something has to change, and that something must be you. You see, that's where most men make the mistake is they commit to change, expecting the change to take place without looking inside and saying, okay, what things about me must change? Because that's the hard question to ask, and that's the hard work to do. So in order for something to change, something has to change. And for each and every single one of us, that something has to be us. Now, step two is we identify all the ways in which porn is negatively impacting us and identify where we're triggered, weak, and vulnerable. Okay. When I say negatively impacting you and where you are, okay, how is it impacting your health, your mental health, your relationship, and get radically honest, right? Your parenting, how's it impacting your work, your show up, your focus? Like, get very clear. Do an entire audit. Like, throughout the day, because I look at porn, how do I show up differently? How by me not walking in integrity? How by me not walking in authenticity? How me thinking about porn when I'm with my kids impacts how they even see me? The harsher you can get on yourself here, I think the better. Now, I don't want this to be a shame and pity party, right? Because we have to take the responsibility that we've done this to ourselves and we've put ourselves in this position. And then I think identifying where you're triggered, weak, and vulnerable is crucial because we need to build some boundaries into our life. But all of this is important because if what we're talking about is creating a new life without porn, we have to know where we currently are. It's like this is like the starting point for this new journey that we're on. So if we're going to get somewhere in 5 years from now, this is where we are. And it's full on honesty. Okay. Step number three is we write out a plan for our new life without porn. So we've identified what it's done to our current version. We've identified the impact it's had on us up until this point. Now we have to think about if I were to walk in freedom for 5 years from now, okay, who ultimately can I become? But what can my life look like? If it's impacting my relationships, how can those relationships change by me being a free man? If it's impacting my health and fitness, how can my health and fitness, like what things can I accomplish physically if I walk in freedom? How will I think differently? How will I look at women differently? How quick and sharper will I be? Can I make more money? How will I grow in my career? Can I finally start that business because I have confidence in myself? Like, once again, the more clear and deeper you can get on envisioning a life without porn, the more powerful this assignment is going to be. Because instead of thinking about all the reasons as to why you stay stuck and all the things that triggered you, now your brain and mind are going to begin to look for the things to create this new version of yourself. So what goals, dreams, and aspirations can you achieve? What relationships can you develop? And how would your current relationships improve? So get really clear on a vision. We've done a full training on this. Rebuiltrecovery.com/vision actually walks you guys through a 5-step framework on 5 years, 1 year, 12 months, etc. So Rebuilt Recovery, there's another free gift for you guys here tonight. Step number 4 is we finally recruit the help, support, and accountability that we need. So we talked about at the beginning, not going to be something that we overcome alone. It is an intimacy disorder. We must expand our capacity for real intimacy. Addiction feeds itself in isolation. Okay. We do it in secrecy. We do it in privacy. And oftentimes when we're alone and isolated, we want it even more. Now, I love the saying, the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but the connection and community that we build in our journey to freedom. Tony could speak to this. He gets connection with guys on a weekly basis. He's a part of our coaching community. Like there's real friendships being developed. Quick story: we used to run small cohorts, so we would coach 8, 10 guys over the course of 4 months together. And we had this was about 2.5 years ago. We had a small group of guys. Two of them lived in Arizona, about an hour away from each other, and one of them was a truck driver who spent a lot of time on the road. They coordinated in between the meetings because uh, Mike was a driver. Yeah, Mike was going to be in Arizona. They coordinated a meetup on a Saturday. They all got together, went out in the desert, shot rifles, ended up breaking bread, having dinner. They spent 8, 12 hours together. When they showed up to the next week's calls, all three of them said exactly the same thing. When I asked them what was the best part of the evening, was it shooting the guns? Was it the food, the restaurant? They said, no, Frank, it was the conversations with men that weren't surface level. See, most of our friendships and relationships are about who won the game, what's going on here, this, that, did you see this, water cooler talk. Like these conversations around transformational change, when you expose yourself, when you get intimate with other men, you create a deeper level connection. And these guys were able to connect with men that they had never met before at a level that they were not able to do with their real friends. So step 4 is get some help, get some support, get some accountability in your life, guys, to do this journey and walk with. So those are the first 4 steps. That's phase 1, guys, awareness. Now we're going to move into phase 2, which is beginning to take some action. Okay, some transformational, intentional action on changing who we are and changing who we're becoming. Okay, I recommend at this point in the game, begin practicing some daily and weekly fasting. Okay, in our program, right at the beginning, we had the guys go on at 48 hours. So full 2-day fast from food. Water, caffeine is okay. If you're really struggling, need some bone broth, that can be okay. But I think most guys can make it 2 days without food. And then I would say begin to practice weekly 24-hour fast. And if you want to take it the next step, go intermittent fasting as well. A couple things come out of this. For one, struggle with pornography to one degree is due to lack of self-control. Okay. There's other drivers and other factors, but to one degree, you lack self-control in that area of your life. And I think growing self-control with what you put in your mouth has a direct correlation to you having self-control in other areas of your lives. Okay. So you're learning some discipline. You're learning some self-denial. You're learning that, hey, your biology doesn't control your actions. Your mind is way stronger than your body. When you're hungry for food, you have the ability to say, no, my mind is stronger. When you're triggered to porn, you should have the ability to say, no, my mind is stronger. So it's a practice in developing the skill set of denial, of self-control, and learning to say no. So in step 5, begin to have some regular fasting practices. Day number 6, or step number 6, daily prayer, meditation, and or gratitude. All three kind of serve many of the same things within us. So if you're not a man of faith and praying isn't a part of your daily life, meditation and gratitude. But if you do follow God, make your prayer meditative, make your prayer about gratitude. But here's the thing is, to one degree, just like it's lacking self-control, another reason why men struggle with pornography is they have the inability to calm and regulate their nervous system. This was really fun for me to explore in 2024. It was kind of opened up some new insights. I knew some of this, but the science on the autonomic nervous system, fight or flight versus rest and digest, is really powerful. And what porn does is it becomes a very powerful deregulator of our nervous system. We feel stressed, anxious, nervous, worried, okay? That heightens our nervous system. It takes us into a fight or flight response. We are now in a stressful state because many of us got introduced to porn at a young age and begin to use it in times of stress. We wired our nervous system that when we're stressed, the way that we regulate it is through porn and masturbation. But if you can learn other tools, meditation, breathing, daily prayer, real things that in real time you can shift into and lean on to help you regulate your nervous system, you're now developing an arsenal to fight this battle. Okay. Morning gratitude, powerful game change for me when I started it back in 2018. I believe it entirely shifts your perspective. It gives you a completely different frame of reference of how you step into the world, of how you navigate your day. And prayer and meditation is you learning to quiet your thoughts. Here's another lie that men believe, right? Is if I just stay busy all the time, I won't need to look at porn. Well, nobody's going to be busy for the rest of their lives. You have to find time to be in peace. There's a French philosopher in the 1700s, Pascal. He said all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit in his thoughts. Okay. We live in a world that will stimulate us and grab our attention around the clock if we allow it to happen. We have to learn to find peace of mind, peace and quiet. Prayer, meditation, and gratitude are three things that if you begin to practice daily, you learn to sit and just be. You can be free by just learning to sit. We've had guys in the program go as far as literally just sitting and staring at a wall for 15 minutes a day. It sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, if you did that for 30 days, your life would change because you would develop something inside of you that so few people lack. Step number 7 is taking regular acts of service. Why this is important is because the use and consumption of pornography, in my opinion, is one of the most selfish behaviors that a man can participate in. We use it for our own personal pleasure, but ultimately what we're doing is we're objectifying many times people that's been against their wills. I don't need to get into the links between trafficking, guys. We've talked about that on the podcast. Maybe we'll do another talk on that. But we have no clue many times what we're watching. Did they consent? Pornhub in 2020 took down 10 plus million videos because they could not verify age or consent of the people in it. So we're using other people's harm, abuse many times to pleasure ourselves. Selfish. It begins to wire our brains to think about what does Robbie need? What does Russell need? What does Frank need? Okay. It creates a frame of reference that we see the world through what we want versus what can we give to others. Okay. Watching porn, we talked about it, places people as objects. Okay. It trains you to be a voyeur. Acts of service come into play. Now you're thinking about, okay, who can I show up in love today? Who can I serve? Like it changes once again, you from the inside out. You no longer are a person of consumption. You become a person of creation or a person of service. So this can look like a lot of different things. Daily acts of kindness, sending gratitude text messages, going to the homeless shelter and feeding people, making that a daily practice or a monthly practice. Little opportunities where you can go to shelters, you can volunteer, you can serve at kids communities. There's unlimited ways to serve other people, okay? But begin to think about, where do I have time, energy, resources, skills that can benefit other people? God placed uniqueness in each and every single one of us, and he gave that uniqueness in a way that we all, when working together, like make this world go round. So every single one of us has something. I guarantee if I ask each one of you, you could benefit each other. So begin to think like that. What can I give and do for others? That's what I mean by acts of service. Okay. And step number 8 here, finally at this point, okay, you build some momentum. You begin to start some change. You have a layer of foundation of knowing the impact that's had. Now would be a pivotal point where you can begin to open up and maybe share your story. Maybe you reach out to a church and you share a testimony there. Maybe you finally share it with a close coworker, maybe somebody that's not your accountability partner, but a good friend, maybe that buddy that's known you for a long time. And it's like, hey man, like, some of those times when you ask me how I was doing, this is really how I was doing. Okay. Once again, I mentioned this at the beginning, but if there are things that are happening in your life that you are not able to talk about, those things are holding power over you. I believe real freedom comes when we find the ability to openly talk about our struggles and challenges. And it also removes that layer of guilt and shame. Okay. Many men go without porn, but they keep it bottled up and they walk around with shame. Like, oh, what if that person finds out? What if this person knows? It's like, no, we gotta rip these band-aids off. That doesn't mean you start a podcast and you share it with the world, right? I'm so-and-so and I did this. Maybe some people are going to be called to that. But once again, having the ability to talk with others is going to be an integral part of your journey and ultimately of your freedom. So that's phase number 2 here, guys, taking action. We're going to move on to phase 3 and then we'll get it wrapped up. Step number 9, doing hard things, or what we say, seeking adversity. Okay. And in fact, it's not just doing the hard things, but it's doing the hard things that you don't want to do. This was another thing that I learned in 2024 that really opened up a lot for me in terms of the coaching and the work and the things that we're doing. But there's a part in our brain, it sits just outside of our prefrontal cortex, not to get super sciencey and nerdy here. It's called the anterior cingulate cortex. Okay. And they found this, Stanford's research, Huberman has talked a lot about this, but this area of the brain lights up. So it means it gets activated when you do hard things that you don't want to do. Okay. And there's a distinction there. It's not the hard thing. It's the thing that you don't want to do because there's adversity. There's the ability to speak to that inner voice and say, no, even though I don't want to do this, I'm going to do it. Now, by activating and lighting up, what it does is it's growing. And what they've been able to see is that this area of our brain is actually the area that's associated to our will. Okay. Our will to live, our will to do more difficult things. So by doing hard things, you're actually training and conditioning yourself to be able to do even harder things. This is why, if you guys know people like David Goggins or Cam Hanes, or you see these people that are running these 100-mile ultra marathon endurance races like through the woods, or people that go up Mount Everest. It's like that wasn't the first thing. Like it took them years and years and years of development, but by seeking adversity, doing the hard thing, not avoiding it, not resisting, not giving into temptation, they grew and expanded their will. Okay. The only way to reach your potential as a man and as a person is by doing things you've never done before. Okay. If you only do the things that you are currently doing, you will stay the same person. And if you believe what I believe, that all success requires identity transformation, that means we must become a different person. We have to do different things. And you'll also begin to build a reputation for yourself that you can accomplish hard things. Most men lack in confidence because when they're faced with adversity, they run from it instead of saying, you know what, I'm going to lean into this and I'm going to grow through this hardship. Okay. Number 10 here is learn new skills and relentlessly pursue new goals. This is going to tap into our neuroplasticity, which is our brain's ability to change through experience. So we got to circle back to that vision for ourselves that we wrote back early on in the program. Remember, step 3 or step 4 was cast a big vision for our life. If that thing didn't have new skills, new things that we need to be doing, then it needs to be rewritten. But once again, by adapting, by learning, by growing, you're changing the neural chemistry of your brain, but you're also growing as a person. Okay. So we talked about neuroplasticity there, and also dopamine. So dopamine is a very common word that gets thrown around the addiction space. It's the pleasure, it's the reward chemical, but it's also the chemical of pursuit. Okay. When you pursue new meaningful goals, things that light you up, that inspire, that motivate you, when you take small incremental steps daily, you get small drips of dopamine. It's like if you've ever, working on writing a book right now. So the book, every time I sit down, complete a chapter, small hits of dopamine, right? Because I'm pursuing bigger goals. Now, a big dopamine release will come at publish date, and then I'm going to get a drop off. And I know that I'm going to have the next goal. Like, what are we going to do? Like reboot your life 3.0 or maybe a 12-month program. So we're already kind of thinking about, okay, once I'm done with this chapter or this phase or this project, like what's the next big one? Because I want to continue to be pursuing new things in my life. Okay. Step number 11, keep the promises that you make to yourself. Going back to that first mistake we made. And I literally mean all of them. Okay. Because how you do one thing is how you do everything. Are you the person that trusts yourself when you say something will get done? Did you not hit snooze? Did you go to the gym when you said you were going to go to the gym? Did you follow the meal plan that you said you were going to follow? Did you do the thing that you said you were going to do for your wife? Did you clean the garage, or is it still sitting there 6 months later and you're going to get it next Saturday after the football game? All these little things, right? This is building our reputation that we have with ourselves. Because here's what I know to be true. If you did everything you said you were going to do, you wouldn't watch porn when you said you weren't going to. So begin to keep the promises that you make to yourself. And step number 12, this kind of ties it all together here is find somebody that you can be a mentor, guide, or help in this journey. One thing that's been really cool in the community right now, the coaching community, is men that are far along down their journey are like finding ways on the internet. And we had a pretty scary story last week, but Tony's here, and they've been going like on Reddit forums and like on message boards and like giving advice and like reaching out to others because it fills them up, like it lights them up. So Bill W., who's the founder of AA, created the 12 steps. I know I debunked some of his work at the beginning, but let's be honest, 12 steps has helped millions of people through addiction. I just believe it was rooted in old science. They didn't have access to information like we do today. But Bill W. was a traveling salesman that struggled with alcohol himself. And what he realized in his sobriety journey is the only way for him to stay clean was he had to be social, connected with people. But if he found one drunk Okay, one drunk person that he could help every single time he visited a new city, then he began to become fulfilled. So as he was traveling, he would have this same practice. He would go to his hotel, he'd check in, he'd go down. This was way like early 1900s. Hey, where's the closest pub at the time? And I think this maybe was happening during Prohibition. So it was all kind of like underground stuff, but the people at the front desk would always know where the pub was. And he would go there because it was the same practice, but he would go there with the intent to find one person that he could help. And he became very successful at that, and that became the foundation of the 12-step program. Having somebody that you're mentoring or guiding in this creates a layer of accountability in your life that will continue to push you forward to freedom. And honestly, there's nothing better than giving back and fulfilling your purpose, which is helping and serving others. But it's important that we do this at this stage in the program because you cannot pass on to others that which you have not experienced yourself. So if you're early on in the struggle, like your goal when you haven't yet found freedom is not to try to help other people, because that creates that environment where we talked about at the beginning, just a small groups of guys that are just constantly messing up and constantly feeling bad for each other. So recap these 12 steps here real quick, and we'll turn it over to some questions for you guys. But phase one, okay, awareness. Step one, admit that there's a problem and commit to change. Step two, identify all the ways this porn is negatively impacting you and where you're triggered, weak, and vulnerable. Step number three, write out a big, clear vision for your new life without pornography. Step number four, recruit the help, support, and accountability that you need. Phase number two, taking action now. We begin to practice weekly and daily fasting. We begin to also have a daily prayer, gratitude, and meditation practice. We begin to start to live a life of service, and we find an opportunity to share our story. Phase number three is attainment, as we do our things and seek adversity on a daily basis. Step 10, learn new skills, relentlessly pursue our new goals. Step 11, keep the promises we make to ourselves. And step number 12, find a way to support or help somebody in their journey. Okay, so those are the 12 steps. And I saw a lot of you guys taking notes and nodding. So hopefully that this was driving home and registering for you guys. But you're probably wondering, like, okay, Frank, these are 12 steps. Where do I go from here? What do I do now? I think it's first thing to understand is that 20% of your transformation will come from the information. Okay. 20% of your success in overcoming this is going to come from the information that you guys just received or that you received in the past. The more important part is going to be the implementation. And I noticed that this is where most guys struggle, is actually taking action, holding themselves accountable, because we suck at it. Let's be honest. Like, as human beings, as men, as people, we suck at holding ourselves accountable. We suck at doing the things that we know need to get done. It's in the Bible that it's the biggest challenge for most men is, why do I continue to do the things that I know I just cannot do? And it happens for many reasons. But there is some good news, because you do have a choice here tonight. Okay. Each and every single one of you is standing there in the fork in the road, and you can continue trying your way. You can stay stuck in this addiction. You can take this information and once again continue to try to do it on your own. Or you can take back control here tonight. Okay. You can decide that creating freedom from porn is in your best interest, and you begin the life that you were born to live. You can finally begin to become that man. Now, we've had a lot of success here. Over 1,500 documented transformations. It's been an incredible journey. God has blessed me. I've gotten to meet many of these men in person. I've seen lives transformed. I've seen relationships restored. I've seen marriages started. Just a couple, success stories here is Clay, the first one over here on my left. So you see him standing there with his wife and two kids. You can't see the second one because he's covered up by the testimonial there. But Clay had a powerful message he shared with me in his exit interview. He told me during his time in our program was the first time he felt like he had sex with his wife. Now there's a man that's standing there with two kids. He was a father of two kids when he came into the program. He was so warped by porn that every time he was being intimate with his wife, he was either visualizing something he had seen previously that day, or thinking about a scene that was stored in his head. That one really shook me, man, because that was very early on in coaching. The one here in the middle, Justin. Justin was a transformational contest winner. We did a fitness challenge 1 year with our men. And he walked away $2,500 richer for losing 21 pounds in that incredible transformation that you see. Justin was a pastor. That's why his face is blurred, because of his public persona. And then you see the one over here on my right, Chiago, launched a business, graduated his doctorate degree, married his dream girl, all over the course of working with us. Drew got engaged to his beautiful girlfriend. Eric won his wife back. Um, Another engagement here. You see the ring being proposed. Chris became a millionaire shortly after working with us. I just heard from him. His business in 2024, I think, broke $2 million. Another one of our clients here had his biggest coaching experience or biggest professional month as a business owner working with us. I could go on and on, guys. We have so many of these, but all these guys had two things in common. And the first one is they were just sick and tired of their current situation. And number two is they were truly committed to making a change and willing to do whatever it took to be free. And I want you guys to ask yourself those two questions here tonight as well. Is are you sick and tired of your current situation? And are you committed to changing and willing to do whatever it takes to be free? Willing to implement the things that need to be done that will produce 80% of the transformation in your life? If the answer to that question is yes, then I have great news for you guys. I would like to introduce you to the Reboot Your Life 2.0 course and community. So I think many of you are inside of our Rebuilt Man free school community. This is our Reboot Your Life course and community. So this is a very exclusive membership group. Inside of our course and community, here's everything that is included. Guys, first and foremost is you get the 12-week course to get to the root of this addiction and create a porn-free life. So you guys can take those 12 steps that I gave here tonight and you can go do them. Like, I encourage each and every single one of you to go take those steps, implement them, and report back to me, because if you do it to a T, you will change. Or you could pass it back to me because I've put it together in a 12-week layout that, if followed, in my opinion, is indestructible and really gets to the root of this. So that's the first thing that's included. You will get an onboarding success call. So if you decide to join us in the community tonight, you will have an opportunity to schedule a call with me within the first week here to make sure that you set yourself on a path of success. If you were to hire me for 12 weeks of coaching, it's about $3,000 for personal one-to-one calls. So that one call has about $250 value. You're going to get weekly group coaching that's led by me. So this is live calls, guidance, accountability. We do these calls weekly. We've already lined up 2 guest speakers for this year as well. I just got a trauma expert locked in this afternoon. I'm super excited to be bringing to the group. So sometimes these calls, we bring in guests from the outside, but weekly you will have access to the group in a live chat, Zoom type forum to get all your coaching questions, all your challenges answered on a week-to-week basis. Once you reach the 3-month mark, it unlocks our self-leadership mastery. So we don't want you focusing on self-leadership while going through Reboot Your Life 2.0. So once you complete the first 3 months, this program unlocks. It's a 12-week course developing 11 tenets of self-leadership. It's just taking your development to the next level. I partnered with a Navy SEAL and a best-selling author to create an incredible program and course on self-leadership. We sold that as a mastermind 2 years ago, and every single person that went through that course paid us $2,000 to $3,000 to be a part of that group. You also get access to the Frank Rich Fitness Training Vault. So this is essentially my life's work in the fitness industry. Muscle building programs, fitness weight loss programs. There's an activation pre-workout. There's an ab program. And one thing I'm excited about this year is really ramping up the fitness side of Rebuilt Recovery. So we'll continue to add additional programs into the Frank Rich Fitness Vault. Put a value there of about $1,000. I think it's far beyond that because it is, once again, my life's work. For those of you that don't know, I spent 15 plus years in the industry, working as a coach, trainer, both in the online space and also in the gym. And I was a competitive bodybuilder for 10 of those years. And they also have Atomic Shift, which is a 30-day study guide following the book Atomic Habits. It's got about a $300 value. So that's everything that's included there, guys. And Reboot Your Life is the world's first and only fully integrated holistic program for porn addiction that's based off of all of these growth principles that we talked about here tonight. It's been recently updated. And like I said, we've had over 1,500 successful transformations through the program. Now, here's exactly who this is for, okay? I appreciate all you guys being here tonight, but if you do not fit this qualification, don't join us. It's going to save all of us some time. It is specifically for men that have been struggling with pornography for at least 1 year or more. Men that is struggles is affecting their marriage and or intimate relationships. Men that are being held back in the important areas of their life due to this struggle. See it, Tony. Your career, your health, your fitness, your personal passion. So the struggle has to have real impact on your life because we're here to help you change those things. Men that are stuck and cannot get freedom, no matter how disciplined you say you are. Okay. I hear that. I hear that all the time. Frank, I cold plunge every morning. I go to the gym. Guys, we've worked with some of the most successful people, Wall Street bankers. Right now on our active VIP coaching roster is a top 100 MLB player, somebody that was up for a gold glove. Like, it's not a lack of discipline, okay? It is a lack of identity, okay? Identity. So if you're stuck, no matter how disciplined you are, this is for you. If you're ready to take personal responsibility, commit to following a plan, accept accountability, and willing to do what it takes, this is for you, okay? This is not for you if you do not struggle with pornography. Hopefully you're not here tonight if you're not struggling. It's not for you if you're not prepared to take action, okay? Like, this is not just show up to a weekly call. Like, we need you putting in work on a daily basis. If you're ready to make excuses, play the victim, this is not for you. If you're not ready to take action, this is not for you. If you do not take responsibility for who you are today and you do not lack ownership for, or do not take ownership for your lack of freedom, this is not for you, okay? So if you're that first column, what I'm about to share with you guys is for you. If you check any of these 4 boxes, please don't join us. But the Reboot Your Life course and community, you saw the value there, well over $5,000. Our current price is $97 per month. But for showing up here tonight for the New Year's live special, we are knocking 20% off, or like 20.2% off. So it's going to be just $77 per month if you decide to go on a monthly basis. Or you could join us for a year, and it's basically pay for 6 months, get 6 months free. So if you sign up for an entire year inside the program, it's 50% off of the $77 per month. Okay. So you can save 20 on a monthly basis or save like 700 total on, you'd have to do the math there, but it'd be this plus an additional like $240. So yeah, you'd save roughly $700 if you signed up for the year tonight. Now, this price that you guys see right here will be live for the next hour. So my goal was to be off this call at 8 o'clock. It's 8:03 right now. So the active price of $77 and $462 for the year will be live until 9:15 tonight, 1 hour from now. We're not doing specials. We are not a brand anymore that discounts, but to honor you guys for showing up here tonight and to really celebrate kicking the year off in the right fashion, we want as many of you with us for the next 12 months, which is why we are discounting that portion of the program, because I really believe that 2025 can be a transformational year for each and every single one of us. So to take advantage of this offer right now, you can go to school.com/reboot your life. I will drop this in the chat box. And like I said, it's only going to be valid for the next hour. So until 9:15, this price will be active. I will be changing it back at that time. Once you're in, you can schedule your free success call with me immediately, and you guys will have access to the program, the Reboot Your Life program, right out of the gate. So you can get access to it tonight and begin to take action on these things immediately. So join today, like I said, is going to be hopefully the biggest and greatest investment that you made in yourself and in your future. Just click the link. I dropped it down there in the chat box for all of you guys. School.com, SKOOL.com /reboot your life. And I will see you guys on the inside.